Welcome to House of Tay. And today we have a special guest, Simon de Pury.
Yes, I am in the art world. I am an auctioneer. I have been in the art market for over 50 years, working both as an auctioneer, as an art specialist, as a curator, I'm also as a photographer, and I'm also a DJ occasionally. So I have the privilege of being passionate about art. I always say, when you love candies, there is no better place to work than in the candy store.
Whoa, that's impactful. Everybody in the art world knows you, and they call you Mick Jagger of auction. How that came about?
That came about many, many years ago. I was conducting an auction in the Hamptons near New York, and Bob Colacello, who was the former editor of Interview magazine, the magazine of Andy Warhol, introduced me and said, "This is the Mick Jagger of auctioneers." And so it stuck, and ever since, and maybe it's because of that they call me. In any case, I take it as a compliment because I love Mick Jagger, I love the Rolling Stones, and what I love about Mick Jagger, he's a genius, but he's getting better and better with age.
Whoa. So, hello, Mr. Mick Jagger of art. There's no right or wrong with art, right? It's all about interpretation.
I love being in the art world because for me, artists are like mediums. They see the future. They see things that we common mortals can't see yet. And so they show us the way because artists are hypersensitive. And because of that, they are able to sense things. They are able to sense the future. They are very sensitive to what is happening around them. And they express that in their art. And that's why I love nothing more than being around artists.
Are today artists more open about their personal struggles like trauma and abuse and identity and addiction than those who come before them?
Yes, I would say so. Luckily, over the years, not only for artists, but for people in general, to be much more open about those issues. And I feel that being open about these issues is hugely helpful because you realize that there is no stigma to it, that's absolutely perfectly okay. And there is not a family that is not affected by it. There's wherever you look, and it goes across all stratas of society. It is right across geographically, right across different beliefs or different religions.
So mental struggles can be expressed through the art.
I think that the wonderful advantage that artists have, it's creating art. It's like an outlet. It's much better than going into therapy. By creating works, you can express your inner emotions, which very often you cannot express in words. Even if you tell me, how do I express the strengths of an outstanding work by Van Gogh or Basquiat? It's difficult to express in words. But an artist can give you profound emotion that is only through their work. To discover that your creativity actually creates good around you and creates joy and can lift people up, that is a magical gift.
Have you ever come across a piece of art that's so powerful that talks about addiction, trauma, and pain?
I think a lot of work is the result of suffering, and you can feel the suffering of the artist by the artworks they have created. And suffering can translate into something very beautiful or something gripping. That is in itself so impressive, and that is in a way healing. You know, in America, in New York, there are systems for children who have grown up in very difficult surroundings, who have, for instance, grown up where the parents were deeply into drugs and who did not have any proper upbringing at all, and who have been very, very shaken up by highly dysfunctional backgrounds. Artists, top artists, very successful artists, work with these children together, and they do drawings, they do paintings. And these children, those who had the benefit of working with these artists, one has seen a marked improvement in their attitude, a marked improvement. Suddenly they started being better at school. Suddenly they started interacting in a more pleasant way with their environment. And so I think that those who have understood the healing power of art, that it is a wonderful method to heal and to work not only with children, difficult circumstances, but with adults,
Anyone.
basically with anyone. It also applies to mental health. One of my favorite French artists, who is no longer alive, Jean Dubuffet, he was fascinated by work done by patients in mental asylums, people who were considered not to be able to lead normal, and therefore not to be able to live outside an environment where they would be under medical observation. Now, a lot of these patients have produced fantastic works of art. And Jean Dubuffet created a whole collection of works done by mental health patients. And he also created a museum in Lausanne, the Musée Brut, it's called. And I tell you, very often, these works done by mental asylum patients are far better and more powerful than works done by perfectly so-called normal people.
So there is a connection between mental health and art.
I think there is. When somebody is considered to be mentally ill, it is very, very close to somebody who's a genius. You know, it's a very thin line between being a genius and doing something completely outstanding and falling off the cliff and being on the other side. It's a very, very thin line. That is something that always totally fascinates me.
Yeah. Art can be a universal language for anyone because you might not speak the same language, but you can understand the art and you can resonate to the art expressively.
Yes, that's what I love about art. And when you are interested in art and get to know the art done from people in not only different countries,
different race,
different
culture,
gender, culture, everything, that builds bridges. Because by getting to know the art of something that is different from what you have experienced as a person, it opens your eyes. And I always say, art is a bridge for better understanding between people from different parts of the globe, from different backgrounds. Particularly now, I feel in my long life, I have never lived a period with such strong polarization, with such strong lack of tolerance for anything that is different. I find it quite frightening and very depressing that we seem to be going backwards in that respect. And therefore, I am a great idealist. I believe that art is going to win out over all of this. The only thing that stays, the only legacy, is cultural achievements. If you look, when we analyze great civilizations of the past, it's the cultural achievements which is their greatest legacy. If somebody was hugely successful as a businessman or whatever they have done, it will never leave the same footprint as somebody who has created art that is universally liked.
It helps connecting people together.
What I think it's even more important in a time like that to encourage art. And what I find interesting, and I don't want to be political in any way, but openness and tolerance is so important in art, but it's important for the world as a whole. Freedom in art can be scary in regimes that are autocratic. I've never seen any great art being done under any autocratic regime, which is quite incredible. Maybe that's precisely the reason.
And creativity comes with freedom.
Creativity definitely comes with freedom. And creativity also comes with necessity. Because there is a situation that requires invention, it brings about inventivity.
For people who are obsessed with collecting art, can you describe it as addiction?
Yes, I always say collecting is an addiction as well. For me, it's the most beautiful addiction. It is completely incurable, but it brings joy because collecting is a creative process in itself. Any good collection carries the handwriting of the person who put it together. So that is the reason why artists very often are the best collectors themselves. because they use their creative sense when they choose works by other artists, and so often they put together outstanding collections. Every child has the instinct of collecting in them. When I was a kid, I was collecting little miniature cars, and I had a huge collection of them. I was obsessed with them. I have 5 children, and my youngest daughter, for instance, did a whole collection of Barbie dolls, and now she's into Labubus. You can see that it's very much, each child has that. But then it sort of stops, and then when we start as adults, the first step when we spend for a bit of money that for us means a sacrifice, financial sacrifice for a work of art, that when that step takes place, the second step will come automatically. I was obsessed with art as a young man, and I felt very lucky to be working in the art world. And I was working at Sotheby's, and I had my first apartment that I ever had, was possibly the most beautiful that I ever had, because it was just one room. It had high ceilings, had nothing in it. It was completely zen. I had a bed in the middle of the room, one chair, one table, and nothing else. Nothing on the walls, nothing at all. It was so, so beautiful. And I felt I don't need anything. I see great art every day at work. When I was in my early 30s, that I saw an artwork that I fell in love with, and for the first time I thought, no, I want to own it. And then I had to pay for what seemed like a lot of money. At that stage, then I was married and I had several children. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. The mother of my adult children was very supportive, and so we did make that step. But then I never looked back. Every now and then I see something that it's not enough just to say it's great, but I want to own it. And to own it is something abstract, because if you and I look at this painting, the painting belongs to you, but we should both have the same pleasure of looking at it. That's why I say it's abstract. Of course, if you want to sell it and it's worth a lot of money, then you are the beneficiary of it. But there are as many motivations for collecting as there are collectors. Some do it for the ego, for the social status. Some do it for real, genuine passion.
Yeah.
Every collector wants, of course, to make sure that if they spend money on it, that this money is not thrown out of the window. I don't believe in this distinction between real, pure collectors and kind of fake speculators, because at the end of the day, even the pure, real collector does not want to pay money and then it's losing all its value. So it's, of course, humanly natural that if you spend money, and it can be quite a bit of money, that you have done an okay investment.
Thank you so much, Simone. So I see you again. Bye.
Thank you so much, Taylor. It was such a pleasure to be here. Like, comment, subscribe. Taylor Srirat.